Welcome to Wisdom and Beyond. Today we are doing our second show with this wonderful woman by the name of Dr. Patricia O'Gorman. Hello there, Pat.
Hi, Tina.
And she's a clinical psychologist in Saranac Lake, New York.
Yes.
And she's written this great book called The Resilient Woman, Mastering 7 Steps to Personal Power. In our first show, we went over those steps, and I'm thinking we're not going to go into them in depth, but maybe you want to read those steps so that our audience today knows what those steps are, because what we're really going to do today is expand this and talk about women in the workplace, women and leadership, leadership in the workplace, leadership at home, how it used to be, how it is, and how these steps come into play.
Great. And we're in through all of that, we're going to be talking about girly thoughts. So I want you to be thinking, what are your girly thoughts saying to you as you're listening to the show?
Define those girly thoughts.
And girly thoughts are those messages we take in from society about how we should look, how we should act, that leave us feeling really terrible about ourselves because we can never measure up. And you said something last night. You quoted Gloria Steinem. You said, say that quote.
That wasn't Gloria Steinem. That was, who wrote Fear of Flying years ago?
Erica Jahn.
Erica Jahn,
yes.
Show me a woman who doesn't feel guilty and I'll show you a man.
Yes.
I love it. Isn't it great? And, it's so true. We think we have to do everything perfectly.
And girly thoughts are these messages that tell us what we should do, what we shouldn't do, and really interfere with what I think our topic is going to be today, looking at women in leadership.
Right.
Because it's very hard to be a leader and to be so concerned about all these things that we're supposed to be doing and not doing. So
I want you to understand, Pat, 7 steps to personal power, because I think there's a lot of merit in just kind of knowing this framework before we start talking. Go for it.
Okay, step 1, make your crisis meaningful, which means if you're going to be in a crisis, learn from it and choose to develop conscious resilience, which is the resilience we develop that we use for us because we know we have it.
Which means we don't have to be perfect because we think women should be perfect. God forbid we should make a mistake. But when in not being perfect, we kind of become perfect because we learn and grow. When you try to be perfect, you don't learn and grow. When you make mistakes and you say, okay, so I made a mistake, so I have to fix this, you learn and grow from that mistake. So it's a growth experience, not a failure.
Right, and it's not being a cookie cutter.
That's right.
Yeah. And step 2 is to uncover your hidden resilient voice and to use your own wisdom to determine what's right for you, which means as women, we have to listen to ourselves, not just the chorus out there, the Greek chorus, dissonant, but learn to listen to ourselves, what is right for us and what is not right for us, and to realize no is a complete sentence. We don't need to offer explanations, we can just say no.
And the generic way that Pat and I talked about before with that, it means having an internal locus of control, listening to ourself, our thoughts, as opposed to being controlled by the expectations of the world around us, right?
Absolutely.
Go for it. Okay,
yes.
3.
Step 3, create helpful boundaries, take charge, and stop setting yourself up, which means listening to yourself and determining what's helpful to you, not what's healthy, which has become a value judgment, but what is helpful, which is much more nuanced, and it's about your needs and your wants.
That's a big thing she's got there. We talked about it before. If you saw the last show, you know how everybody's talking about balance. Oh, I don't have balance. Oh, I don't have enough balance. Everybody's thinking because they don't have balance. There's no balance. It's a myth. Who has balance in their life? That's ridiculous. So something was put out there maybe for women to sort of broaden their lives, but really it ended up being, oh, if I don't do it, there's something wrong with me. And she's saying, in today's world, this whole idea of being healthy is the same thing. Oh, I didn't do this right. I didn't eat a carrot. I didn't run today. I didn't do this, that. And what she's saying, look for what's helpful in your life, not necessarily healthy. Helpful will include healthy, but it can include a lot of other ways of having a better life too.
Right, about being tuned into yourself. A concept I really like is about being sweet to yourself. You know, we're sweet to our children. Can we nurture ourselves and our own vulnerabilities the way we nurture our children? That's all under helpful. Step 4 is to protect your heart and love resiliently, which is all about maintaining who you are as you love someone else and not doing the fadeaway.
Well, that's why I think I love my husband, because he has so much personal power just about knowing who he is, that he's not afraid of mine. That's an important thing to have in a marriage, because that allows me to expand.
Yes, and you have support to expand. That is
right.
important.
And, you know, so we can't wait for somebody to give that to us. It's something we have to learn to do.
Right, and we have to look for people who support that in us.
Absolutely.
And my step 5 is to realize that you can become strong in the hurt places and heal your wounded self. That what resilience is learning from those things that have hurt us. And step 5 is all about really acknowledging that, that much like, you know, a cut we get, that we develop a scar or thicker tissue, it protects that boo-boo spot, we can protect our heart in that way. And step 6 is to think positively and to realize no matter what happens, we can still maintain our inner optimism. As children, we laughed and we played. That child is still in there. And so that optimism is still in there. And step 7 is to develop gratitude for who we are and what we've learned. So we've all gone down roads we wish we didn't have to journey, and but that's part of who we are today.
And mostly, we all make mistakes, but you're saying we can learn and grow from these mistakes.
Yeah.
And be grateful for the mistakes, actually, sometimes.
Yes.
Because we wouldn't have gotten to wherever it is we go if we hadn't made some of those mistakes.
Yeah,
like we turn left instead of right. Oh, I like it over here on the left.
Yeah, I wouldn't have seen them if my car hadn't gotten off the road,
right? Okay, so now that's the basic premise, okay? Now we're going to get down and dirty. All right. Yeah. I'm a few days older than Pat.
5.
5 days. Okay. She's been calling me grandma. No, she hasn't. And so we came of age. We were post-war children.
Yes.
And oldest of the baby boomers. Actually, we were born 9 months after the end of the war. And as I've told Pat, I didn't know that till I went with a group from Princeton to Colmar to celebrate the liberation of France by the Americans to celebrate the 50th anniversary. And so I didn't know that I was the oldest of the baby boomers, so I like to tell everybody that I may be the oldest, but not particularly the smartest or the best in math. I had never figured that one out, right? So we came of age in the 70s.
Yeah.
And my friend Pat Donahue, who's the president of Mercer County College, has a great line that she used to say that there was one day in the 70s when the doors opened for women. It's sort of like that. There's a whole bunch of us that ran through that door.
Right.
It wasn't always pretty. People didn't always want us. We didn't know what we were doing half the time, but we took some risks. And one of the things we know that women need to take some calculated risks. But the doors opened, or we knocked them down, or we just spread them apart and squeezed through.
We did, and I think we got a certain amount of courage and leverage from how pissed off we were. You know, women then were angry, and we used our anger to really push down and change things. And women today are
They're too tired to be angry.
And it's internalized.
73% dual income.
Yeah.
Come on, you know, succeeding at every level. And this is what we were talking about earlier. First of all, I think we were incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
We were lucky because there was all this new opportunity, and we were sort of at the head of the line.
Yeah.
We were just, it was like perfect for our age, and we don't even think how lucky we were. We think how good for us. We had the women's, but we were really, there were a lot of women that paved the way for us to be lucky, but we were lucky to get to have that opportunity. So in today's world, with 73% of the families dual income, and not everybody making a lot of money, let's be clear, I think women are too tired to be angry, and maybe too good, because we worry, how am I going to be a leader at home? How am I going to be a leader at work? How do I support my family? There are all these pressures on women, and I think it's much harder for women today than when we were young women.
I agree. I agree. And there isn't the anger there. There isn't the cause.
No, there's the self-blame. That's why your book, The Resilient Woman, matters, because there is this self-blame if you think you're not doing everything perfectly.
Absolutely. And we internalize it. We get depressed. Now there are antidepressants, which we didn't have when we were, you know, younger, but we're medicating something we need to take another
but if somebody's on their medication, I don't want anybody to go off their medication
unless I don't want anyone
with their
either.
Practitioner.
Absolutely.
Okay? Let's be clear about that. Because everybody's different and we all have different issues. So let's not go down that road.
Yeah.
But whether we're on medication or not medication, we can look at things differently. We make a choice to look at things differently and see, you know, what's going on. I mean, all right, so I think it's really hard for women let's talk about leadership a minute.
Okay.
So I speak a lot about leadership. Pat speaks about leadership. Here's my definition of leadership. Leaders develop the potential of the people around them. It's just that simple. If I'm a mother, my job is to look at my kids and not tell them what to excel in, but to tell, well, I do want them to read and write and do math, let's be clear, but assuming that we're doing that. But to help them develop their strengths to be the best they can possibly be in the ways, see what's right with them, not what's wrong, and build on that.
Right.
It's just that simple. If I'm a CEO of a company, that's my job. My job is to look at my company, look at the people in my company, put the people in the positions that match with their strengths, being solution-based, not problem-based, okay? And then put a team around them and develop the potential of these people. And when you do, and if you try to pull a family or you try to pull a company, like, you get really tired, right? But if you look at all the people and you see, how do I put you in a position to develop your potential? And then everybody has that same belief, because we're all leaders, I don't care who we are, then the company or the family is like gears all touching each other, and it moves forward, right?
Right.
So knowing that that's sort of the concept I have for leadership, what do you think needs, as the older sisters of the young women today who are wonderful in the workplace, who are succeeding at all levels, not making as much money as men, let's be clear, that's not equal, right?
No, it's not.
But they're succeeding, and they're also wonderful at home, and we need to see ourselves as leaders in both places. What thoughts do you have about how you would reach out to these women?
Well, I think we need to really see other women as supporters and as sisters, and we instead approach frequently other women in the workplace as competitors. We don't support each other. We need to have, I grew up in New York City, and early in my career, I was told I needed a rabbi. So it was, someone to informally mentor me. We need to mentor other women, even if we're just starting out. We need to
mentoring is very big in the literature.
Sure,
it's important that you get a mentor, though, that knows what's written, not what's written on the paper.
Yeah.
They say this is what's written on the paper and this is what's expected, then you need to know what they really want.
Yeah.
Because it's never really all out there.
No, it's not.
It's sort of intuitive, and people sort of do this intuitive discovery. Right. But if you're new to a place, you need someone to kind of let you know what direction it goes.
Right. You need somebody to support you, and each one teach one, and you need someone to support, because as you learn whatever skills you need, if there's someone you're also teaching it to, that's another level of your learning. So, but it's about creating the sisterhood at work. And we had that at one time.
Because there were so few of us. We had to band together or we were toast.
Yeah, and we don't tend to have that now.
That's right, because there's so many. And I'll be honest with you, we live in a really tough economy, right? Do. And if I were out there working in the factory, making, whatever, and I was a single income for my children, or even a dual income, and another woman tried to take my job, I would fight tooth and nail for her not to take my job.
Right. Right.
I mean, in almost any situation. So, I mean, I think that we need to support one another, but the reality is many women are not only buy the bread, they buy the bread and they make the sandwiches. They make the money to buy the bread, then they take the bread home, and then they make the sandwiches to give their kids lunch. I mean, we're covering both ends of the stick here.
Right.
And so it's kind of vital.
It's vital, but we can also, in a workplace situation, someone's trying to take our job, but we know everything starts at the top. So if there's stuff dripping down that's causing people to be at each other like this, we can also join together and maybe try to push stuff back up.
And so learn what Dan Goleman talks about is emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Learn how to read a situation and find positive ways where we don't go attack another woman, but we enhance ourselves. We use our strengths, we go forward, and we say, here's what I can do, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm not good at, as opposed to sort of getting, instead of attacking somebody else.
Right, and this is, there's a Buddhist tradition of loving your enemy.
Yes,
and
I agree.
So you make your enemy, you try to make life good for your enemy. You don't put all your energy into attacking your enemy. So there's another woman who's competitive with you. You may want to support her because you have that energy and that knowledge to support her as you keep doing your good job. And maybe she'll join you. We can change these dynamics dynamics, just because they're set up adversarially doesn't mean we have to continue them adversarially. And
I think that's so true.
And natural leaders emerge in situations like that, but it's about us owning our power and owning what we know and not being so afraid.
Right.
And not being the good girl, because we all try to be the good girl.
You know, here's an example of how I think leadership goes back and forth between work and home. We were visiting some friends of ours not long ago, and my husband and I had an argument. And when it was time for us to leave, we were actually taking a bus to another city. They were kind of remote, and so we were taking a bus to another city to catch a plane. And our friend made the reservations on the bus and said to me, I didn't put you next to each other. And I didn't want to argue with him, but he knew we had just had a little argument, right?
Oh.
That was his thing. So I wasn't going to do that, but I also wasn't going to argue with him.
Yeah.
So I went to the bus driver and said, look, we want to change our seats. So we're sitting next to each other. Our friend gets on the bus and says, oh, you're sitting next to each other. I put you here and you here. And I said, yes, I know, but I didn't want to do that. You know why I didn't want to do that? Because my husband and I needed to heal. It was a little argument. It wasn't a huge argument. You know, it was about the reservation when we were leaving, what we're doing. But we needed to heal. We needed to be next to each other. And that's like embracing the people with whom you have conflict with and trying to work it through rather than making a big dividing line. And I think it's really important, as long as you're in a safe situation, to do that in relationships and in marriages and with our kids and everybody else. And I think when we get scared, we're more likely to act out as opposed to embrace.
Right, we become defensive, we become angry, we become judgmental, and that plays out a lot for women.
But we kind of do that because we really think it's all our fault.
Yes, we do.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's her girly thought thing.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons we attack somebody, we go on the attack, is because we think it's our fault.
Right. And if we can realize it's not our fault and that we have something positive and maybe we can control the situation, then we really have something to offer that enhances us and can really dispel a lot of the negativity that happens.
So like if we're in a relationship with a guy or another woman and our partner does something that we feel really violated by, that's the time to get close and talk about it as opposed to call them names and think how horrible they are.
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, when we're doing that, I think as women, that we feel guilty, and that means we're inadequate or less than, and if we were just better, this wouldn't have happened.
It is, I'm dealing with something personally now, and I had a conversation with my husband, and I said, I am at my best when I don't run. When I start running, that's not my best. Now, that may make everyone else more comfortable, but that isn't who I know myself to be. I do much better, you know, addressing, fighting, even being angry. That's more me. And so who are you? You know, what is your best when you're in a situation like this, and how can you use that
and
so that you're acting your best?
Right, and how do we get past these girly thoughts where we think, in a way it's kind of arrogant, we think we can control the world, so if there are big problems, they're all our fault because we're so powerful, but it's really not a good kind of power. And so, you know, how do we go about saying, look, things happen. Everything isn't because I've made a mistake. Everything isn't because I'm a bad person. You know, there are other factors. And then we have to really talk ourselves down, I think, and then reach out to the people involved to say, look, I'm sorry I was angry. Let's talk about what's going on here. Now, how do you suggest that people calm themselves down to get to that place?
Well, I have a meditation I really like, that I'm perfectly imperfect, so sometimes I remind myself of that, you know, and you know, addressing what we've done wrong and acknowledging it and then moving past it is one of the most powerful things we can do, because then it's not somebody else coming in from the side saying, yeah. We're saying, you know, I did it, I screwed up, sorry, but, you know, this is what we need to do. And then the focus is, as you said earlier, on the solution. It's not taking all the energy around the problem, which maybe is a decision we made that wasn't the best decision.
See, this is what I like about Pat. We really have the same thinking, but we don't necessarily have the same words. She's kind of poetic. You know, that's true. You are. You know, you're talking about your energy and all. I'm more like a sledgehammer. And so how I might, and we've said this before, how I might sort of talk to myself into a place where I can talk to somebody is what I've said to you before. I can be okay no matter what because I have the power to find a positive way to be okay. That's like a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Yours is more gentle to to yourself. But we're all different, so you have to use whatever works for you. But the point is we have to find a way that's authentic to each of us. I can't use your way. I mean, I could. You can't use my way. You could, but you chose what's authentic to you. I chose what was authentic to me. We had the same thinking. We met. We had different words, but it was the same effect. And that's what everybody's got to do. Right. You can't tell them what to do. I can't tell them what to do. But the doing is about owning ourselves and making a choice to take a risk, a calculated risk, to take a chance to see if we can work something out without being shut down because we feel so guilty because every bad thing that happened in the world is all our fault.
Right, right. Yay,
there you go.
Tina.
It's true, right?
It is. And it's about being okay with being powerful. In the 70s, women were okay being powerful. Women today, I think, tend to feel, well, they don't need to be so powerful. They can just get credit for doing what they're doing. And there's truth in that. But as women, we have to be powerful. We have to be willing to take it, you know, if people don't like us.
Exactly. And so I was playing tennis, this is years ago, and there's a man I don't like who plays in this round robin that I was playing in. And as I walked to the courts, he said to me, "You hold your shoulders like you're a man." And he thought it was an insult. And I thought, oh, I must look powerful. He and I we will never be on the same page. And so I could have thought, oh my goodness, I'm not looking like a girl. No, I felt like a powerful athlete that day. Come on, we know. Let's be clear, I'm never going to be at the USTA, okay? But, you know, for me, I felt like a powerful athlete.
So you took what he said and you took the positive.
I thought it was a compliment.
Yes.
He was trying to insult me. But my point is, because I kind of owned my power, as opposed to defining myself the way he thought a woman should be.
Right, right. I shared last night in our group you know, I've written the book, The Resilient Woman. Press releases are out on it. People are calling me for radio shows. This radio show called me, and this guy who was the co-host was saying on the radio show, well, when women are in leadership positions, how come they have to act like guys? You know, why can't they just kind of cheerlead people? And I was saying, you know, I was really appalled for a moment. I thought, well, he's read the book, he's read the press release, he knows what it's about. But it's so ingrained that women should be one way and men should be another way, and women in leadership. And he said, well, why can't women just laugh and make everyone happy and do their job? And I said, well, sometimes they can, and sometimes, you know, they have to use gender-neutral leadership skills.
Well, that's why I like that definition, that leadership is about developing the potential of the people around us. It's gender-neutral. And if we just look at the world that way, it's never about us. Leadership isn't about us. It's about the other people, for heaven's sakes. It's not about us. It doesn't even matter about us. Our job is to look at that person, find their strengths, find what's right or wrong, and build on that so that they can grow and drive a company forward, drive a family forward, drive a school forward, whatever they're driving forward. Their lives. I mean, isn't that what we do with children? Try to put them in a situation where they can succeed?
Right. But we need, as women today, we need to put ourselves in situations where we can succeed.
That's right. Now, what's that mean?
Well, what that means is to be very conscious that just because we do a good job doesn't mean we're succeeding. We need to make sure we have support. We need to make sure we have that mentor or rabbi, and that we need to really sometimes play the political games.
Absolutely. And we need a team.
We need a team.
We need a team.
The
I couldn't make it without a team.
Right.
I have guys on my team, too.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're the guys that want to be on the team that I like on my team. But we all need a team. I don't think anybody can to go forward in ways that are real for us. I think it's unrealistic to think that we're powerful, and I think we can make a choice to take some calculated risks and to think about our thinking so that we stay centered and we own who we are and what we want. But does the President of the United States get there all by himself? Of course not. No. It takes millions of people. So, I mean, I think that's a great analogy for us. And I think this is a problem, but it's a good thing now. I mean, now women get together like last night and we're talking about things. And We play sports where men used to gather and play sports, and they
Right.
would talk about business, and now we do all those kinds of things too. And that's why Catalyst, I think, shows that girls that play sports tend to do as well. That's probably not, it's probably everybody, almost all women do sports now, so it's probably not as big a deal as it used to be, right? But that's what I think happened for women, that we thought we had to do it ourselves.
And we did have to do it ourselves,
Right.
but we don't
don't
have to
now.
We don't have to now.
I know.
And we have to come out of our comfort zone a little and grow and realize that, you know, we're there to do a job. We're going to do it well, and we're going to pull in other people, and we will be gracious, and we're not always going to be liked. Just like this guy on this radio show who invited me on, he wasn't liking me much, but you know,
Well, he was wrong.
he was typical of a certain level of guy,
exactly.
you know.
Right. That's why it was like that guy that didn't like my squared off shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, it was who he was, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think Serena has made that all acceptable these days. So you go, girl.
That's right. Muscled women. I love it.
I love it too. That's great. So what else here? I mean, it's hard for women today who are, you know, trying to do it all. Some of them have support, some of them don't have support. Other than looking for balance and looking in narrow ways to be healthy, what are some other ways we could talk to women about being healthy today in the world? One, we're going to have them choose their thoughts, right? We know that our thoughts affect our feelings affect our behaviors. She calls these girly thoughts, where we're giving ourselves negative messages. So that's a big deal.
Right.
That we don't go down that road.
Right. So we address our girly thoughts, and we start challenging ourselves when that message comes on about being the good girl.
Yes.
Because that's so much still in there, ingrained in us. You know, the reality is, sexually for women, this world is still not a safe place. We had that situation in, I believe it was Wyoming 2-3 months ago, where a teacher had a long-term affair with a student in junior high, middle school, and the student committed suicide, and the mother, you know, realized what was going on, and he got, I think, 30 days in jail. And so we do have to treat our daughters, because it's not a level playing field out there, but you know, we can still enjoy the fact that we must have so much power to be driving all of this. There was recent research on touch and how a woman's touch tends to be different than a man's touch, and soothing, repetitive is much it's much more powerful in the brain and calming down all the systems than big hugs and tickles and other things. But as women, we don't walk around feeling, oh, I got the touch. Who am I going to touch?
Well, everybody talks about exercise, and it's the number. I mean, it's a great stress reliever and all that. We make beta endorphins and serotonins, all these things. We also get that response when we have hopeful thoughts. Right. And there are other things we can do about exercise. We were talking earlier today, hand sewing, repetitive motion kinds of things. But the big thing that I think that is missing a little, at least as we talk about it in the culture today, because everybody's so busy, is what you said earlier, and that's kind of the sisterhood. Oxytocin is a hormone that when we have sexual relationships, women make oxytocin. When we nurse children, when we parent children, and it's called one of the bonding hormones. Vasopressin is for men. And the research shows that when we talk to other women, we create oxytocin, and the number one predictor of success in the workplace, or productivity, excuse me, in the workplace, is another woman to talk to. So I think you hit on it when you said we need to turn to the sisterhood and call somebody up and asking. That's what, like, what was it, knitting groups or sewing groups?
Quilting groups.
People use, I mean, imagine, those women must have walked out of there really powerful. They're not only using hand sewing, but they're talking to each other. Like, no wonder those women were so healthy and could go across America, you know? And in the covered wagon or something. And so relating to another woman.
Relating to another woman and helping another woman, because again, when we can give it, then we own it.
And we don't have time to go in it, but Carol Gilligan talked about the male hierarchical model, which is really what capitalism is built about, and defined the level playing field as women. We weave webs of connectedness. I like to say the wider our webs of connectedness, the higher we bounce, right? But in reality, in weaving those webs of connectedness, I love the idea of your success is my success, and my success is your success. And if we can approach the world that way, knowing that we also have the responsibility to take care of ourselves and all that kind of stuff, I think we come together with so much more power than if it's just one person.
Absolutely. And we can enjoy the success of another. And that may be part of how we can start on this journey, is to see the successful women, enjoy them, and to acknowledge that. And,
right.
Begin to realize, just like in a family, we create a certain vibe in our families, we can create a certain vibe in our workplace too. But it's up to every woman to try to do that. But to realize that getting the job done is getting the job done, and you may not always be liked.
And that's why Pat is on the show today, because I think she's one brilliant woman. I love her book. It's a great book, The Resilient Woman. You can get it on Amazon. It's published by Health Communications Incorporated. Down in Florida somewhere. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you,
You're
Tina.
so great.
Thank you.
We're having our little sister thing here. Take care of yourselves. Have fun, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.